On this episode of the podcast. Hello and welcome back to Geek Mythos podcast. I am your host Jose, and my other co-host is still not here. He still hasn't fixed his Wi-Fi. Waiting for him to move. So we're still, working on our mini episodes. But on this episode, we're gonna talk about Captain America, also known as Steve Rogers. But first, the intro music. Yes, Steve Rogers. All right, skinny little dude that gets enhanced with the experimental serum to aid the United States in the efforts for World War II. Now, if you've seen the movie, you know that he was part of the invaders, the squadron. But they were more of the army in the movie, and in the comics, it was the original Human Torch. Yes, he's not the Fantastic Four Human Torch, Johnny Storm, another one. Namor the Submariner, Marvel's Aquaman that I already spoke about, and we got Spitfire, Bucky, and Toro, and Captain Rogers himself. We didn't see this in the MCU for certain reasons, but as I mentioned on my TikTok episode of Fun Facts, we've seen the Human Torch's suit on the Stark Expo in Captain America's first Avenger movie. Now, the creators for Captain America are Jack Kirby and Joe Simon, and he was debuted in March 1941 in Captain America's comic number 1. He's a predecessor of Marvel Comics and was first in Timely Comics, but then later changed to Marvel Comics. So he's much older than Marvel himself itself. Uh, the reasons behind this amazing hero many look up to in the geek world or the comic world was the design to resemble a patriotic super soldier during World War II. It was the popularity that skyrocketed this character, but it was also short lived. He was discontinued in 1950, revived a bit in 1953, and then brought back in 1964. Steve Rogers was a fine art student and loved comics. But before he joined the army, he had a bunch of health problems: asthma, scarlet fever, thematic fever, epilepsy, sinusitis. I'm probably saying that wrong. Chronic colds, high blood pressure, heart palpitations, fatigue, nervousness, heart trouble, and his family had a history of diabetes, cancer, and stroke. It was up until 1936 when his mom passed away due to tuberculosis and buried next to his dad or her husband. It was when that happened that Bucky offered him a place to stay and they bonded even more. Simon said Captain America was consciously politically a creation. He and Kirby were morally repulsed by the actions of Nazi Germany in the years leading up to the United States' involvement with World War II and felt the war was inevitable. The opponents to the war were all quite well organized. We wanted to have our say too. Fun fact that everyone forgets: after Bucky was shot in 1948 in the Captain America story, um, Captain America's girlfriend Betsy Ross at that time became a superhero or sidekick named Golden Girl and took his place. Also, Captain America didn't join the Avengers till Avengers number 4 of March 1964, and the cover art was by Jack Kirby and George Russos. This explained his final days right before he was discontinued. This was when the idea of him being frozen on ice for decades had, had him right off and then brought back. And that was much important to his character as we've seen in the first Avenger movie at the end and the Avengers movie right after. It was him being haunted of his past and living in the future, and something that no other character has been part of or written like. Fun fact though, in 1960, the Comic Code Authority had already put a veto on graphic descriptions of drug intake and abuse in comics, and the serum of the super soldier serum was made into a oral formula, so he could take it like an inhaler. But for those who don't know, the Comic Authority was when the comics were put into trial in 1954 by the Senate Judiciary Committee subcommittee to investigate juvenile delinquency. The way I put it easily is kind of like today when video games are kind of like trying to be like moms against video games or something like that, when they're trying to go up against a Call of Duty game because it's too violent and and restricting the creativity of the writers and the fictional ideas basically. Now, due to no research being done at this time, the population of comics was that high, and the legislators thought the influence of the stories affected juveniles. But who was enough to defy the comic code? Well, Stan the Man Lee. Stan Lee, of course. Often used Spider Man to talk about drug abuse. Marvel asked permission to publish special issues, but were denied. So many requests came in that the code was revised in December of 1970, and the new code was to take into effect in February 1971. The code lifted the restrictions on crime, lifted the ban of horror comics, but they still couldn't use the words like horror and terror in the titles. DC Comics didn't approve the comic code and called the revision a disappointment that they had started creating comics without the seal of approval. The villain behind this evil scheme into the legislators' hands was Dr. Frederick Wordham. I don't know why that took me so long to say it. It's a weird last name. He used his book to explain how the inappropriate content influenced children into committing crimes, which I didn't read the book, but like I guess that's again another example would be a research study that's probably not very well funded to saying that video games that are very violent influences people to commit crimes such as murder and such. I don't think that's the case. The story that Spider-Man defied the comic hold was when Peter's best friend Harry Osborn struggled with his drug addiction, and the story behind it. Marvel slipped this comic without letting anybody know, the CEA, and this led to the CEA updating the code. In DC Comics, though, the comic Snowbirds Don't Fly was a two-parter with Green Lantern and Green Arrow witnessing Roy Harper, or Speedy, or the Red Arrow, but Speedy at the time, injecting heroin into his arm, and set the tone for that comic. The writers wanted to create a story that was a big social issue at the time, and also on the verge of getting cancellation by the comic, and the duos. It was a creative freedom that Denny O'Neil was given to use his insights on the social problems to readers. Now, going back to Captain America. Now, many of you either might or might not know that outside of the comics, he had a movie in 1944, and also a lot of he had a movie in television, but also was in animated TV, animated shows. 1960, he had his own animated show. 1979, CBS Captain America television movie was aired, and soon after November of that year, Captain America 2: The Death 2 soon aired. You could buy both films on DVD. In the 1980s, he appeared in Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends animated show, and then had a public announcement about energy conservation that battled Thurman Thief the Wattage Waster, and Cold Air Crook. Yeah, you can't make this up. In the 1990s, he appeared in the X-Men 90s show, Fantastic Four series, Spider-Man 90s show, which I have to say is one of my favorite shows, and also the X-Men. Avengers United They Stand show, Iron Man show, and his own show that didn't survive long in the 90s. In the 2000s, he made a cameo appearance in the X Men Evolution alongside Nick Fury and the Superhero Squad's show, Iron Man Armored Adventures in the 2010s. He appeared in the Black Panther show and the Avengers Earth Mightiest Heroes, which was one of my favorite heroes series at the end. Because at the end, the Kree come into play, and it just left you at a jaw-dropping ending, and I wanted more of it. The Ultimate Spider-Man, Hulk and the Agents of Shield, Guardians of the Galaxy, Spider-Man, and Avengers Assemble, which is like the sequel of the why can I not speak today? A sequel to the Avengers Earth Mightiest Heroes. He's been in so many things. It's a lot, and I probably missed a lot. So I'm pretty sure you guys could write that down and tell us what do you think. Can also add the Amalgam comics. This was when DC Comics and Marvel Comics merged their universes, creating the Amalgam universe, and the incarnations of these heroes merging. In this universe, Captain America is combined with Superman to create the character Super Soldier. Not a great name. Not a great name. In this reality, Clark Kent is given the Super Soldier Serum created from the DNA harvested from the body of a dead baby Kal-El. Yeah, that's really weird. Like what? Like like no. That's just so weird to me. I mean, think about it. Getting a DNA, getting the blood from a dead baby. That's no. The serum gives him the powers of Superman, but was frozen in ice after a battle with Ultra Metallo at the end of World War II. His costume is similar to Captain America's, with his shield being the Superman symbol of hope. I think it brought up a lot of creative ideas, but like all ideas, not all of them are good. I think that they should have really gone back to the drawing board and realized some of these combinations of characters weren't that good. I had to find the list because I forgot the names, but Doctor Strange Fate, um, the most powerful sorceress I could ever think of a combination like that. Apparently, it was Marvel's Doctor Strange and DC's Doctor Fate and Marvel's Professor X. I mean, wow! Look at that. What? That's like beyond Omega level right there. You got Galactiac, which is a combination of Galactus and Brainiac. Kind of like that though. Thanos side, which is kind of looks like just Dark Side with Thanos's armor, and kind of looks purple, which Dark Side already kind of is purple-ish. Uatu the Guardian. Uatu the Guardian. I'm sorry. Uatu the Guardian. Combination of the Watcher and the Green Lantern's Guardians. That's pretty brolic. The Night Spectre. Ooh. It is the soul of Harvey Osborn and the Two-Faced Goblin, with the combination of course, the Spectre. Whoa. Ghost Rider is a speed demon. You think of that, huh? But I could only think of one that came up to the top of my head, and it was Amazon, which is a combination of Storm and Wonder Woman. And I think they gave her a name, which is not even Amazon. I think it was. I think I'm pronouncing this. I'm gonna pronounce this wrong, but Oro or it's like horror, but with no H. Aurora. Aurora? Aurora. Aurora. That is just baffling. Aurora. I can't even say that with the straight face. All right, I'm gonna go back to Steve Rogers because what's going on with me, right? All right, well, the most well-known villains in his arc is the Red Skull, Baron Zemo, Hydrocap, Armin Zola, Crossbones, Baron von Strucker, Viper, Taskmaster, Winter Soldier, and organizations like Hydra, AIM, and I don't want to say. Well, I'm gonna say it. Secret Empire, not an organization, but part of the comics name, and Sin, better known as the Red Skull's daughter, Cynthia Schmidt, but they go as Sin. She goes as Sin. Now he goes through so much, and his past is always trying to catch up to him. Examples like Red Skull, Hydra, the Baron Zemo, Winter Soldier. And but what sets him different than the other Avengers and other heroes is that other than him having a super soldier serum, and his differences between the Avengers, like advanced technology and being powerful, like Thor and Hulk. Like he grew up in the late 30s and 40s, but he also analyzes everything. He covers in all bases. For example, when we talk about Civil War, it was an argument. It was an argument between Tony Stark and him, and it was about the Superhero Registration Act. Was during the event of M Day, when a couple of heroes died from an explosion that, you know, ex- killed casualties, and the government wanted super-powered individuals to surrender their real names to the government, but not the public, and to be monitored by the government and be taking orders from them. In the comics, we can relate this, and we always think about this, is the Mutant Control Act and how it was deemed as a fear repellent towards mutants, and to settle the fear among regular human beings. Captain America thought it would place fear within the government to the superheroes and fear in the superheroes. It stripped them from trying to do the right thing, and the government started to hunt them down. Iron Man helped the government, and it split the heroes in half, and it meant that heroes had to choose one side or the other and fight against each other. One when the other heroes that worked for the government had to hunt them down. Which is what I just said. But we see a comic where Captain America does the opposite. I mean, he becomes an evil organization himself, Hydra, and infiltrates the Avengers and causes attacks and manipulates people and events. But the most interesting part of all this that I think took away from everything was that some I forgot who like could see the future and saw the events that like caused another civil war, which was during Civil War 2, and saw that Miles, Spider-Man, Miles, he was holding a future Captain America in his hands in Washington D.C. dead. He was holding a dead Captain America, and this story is a must read. I know. People hated this comic, but this is the thing with the comic fans, and people just they don't like change. They don't like to see a character like Captain America do such a bad thing. You know what I mean? Like change like that. They always want to see him do the right thing. Like, that's what they did with like Superman, where like they kind of changed him a bit with the new 52, and he was kind of more like a dick. He wasn't really a pre-new 52 where he talks first and then fights. He was more like, I want to fight and then talk, and didn't make any sense. But I didn't like that either because that's not really himself. But then I kind of understood it because he's a new Superman. He's not the first one. I mean, he's not the first one. He's not the original one. It's a new take on it. He's more like of a kid that has powers, but even though he's like 34 years old, like what's going on with that? Or 30 something years old, like you don't fight and then talk, you talk and then fight. If it doesn't go well, you fight. But you gotta remember that heroes, when they die, they come back or they get retconned. So tell me I'm wrong about that. Like no, it gets fixed. Everything gets fixed, and it did get fixed. And I'm gonna just point out the really good comics that you guys should pick up, which is Secret Empire, Civil War One, and I mean, I guess if you have to, Civil War Two, even though like I didn't really like it, but uh, I just really hated Captain Marvel in that comic. The Death of Captain America, uh, Captain America Winter Soldier, Operation Rebirth, Ultimates Volume One, Man Out of Time, Infinity, Age of Ultron, and his first issue. Man, you should really pick up the first issue. That's where it started. It all. 1941, issue number one. And by the way, I've been posting a lot about Captain America, and I think there's three of my favorite scenes. He picks up the hammer, fights Thanos by himself, just a little bit. He's almost winning. I mean, Thanos was kind of scared. You saw that, right? Like he was winning. He was beating the crap out of him. But Thanos is strong. Um, and there's a scene with the elevators fight. The elevator fight was just amazing. But then the same scene kind of starts in Endgame, where he has the suitcase of the Spectre, not the Spectre, the Loki's weapon to manipulate people, and the mind jump, and he just whispers, "Hell Hydra," and when he does that, man, I goosebumps. When that story came out, I kind of reflected or looked at it as a Red Sun Superman, where I thought it was an interesting take in how to make a superhero kind of a villain, but not really, but then see his faults. And I thought that was that's what that where that was leading up to, but it wasn't. And at the end, I don't want to spoil it. At the end, you see like, oh, that's not what had happened, and they use that to fix that. Okay, so it wasn't like its own story because it involved, I think it was 616 or one of the Ultimate Universe. I don't remember, but wherever it took place, like it wasn't another, no, it wasn't another Earth. It wasn't an else storyline. So the way that they mixed it up, I understood it a little bit better. But I still liked it. I mean, don't get me wrong. If it was in another Earth, like that's fine. I think a lot of people would have preferred another Earth, other than it's that story combining with or retconning certain things. But then again, like when they retcon again against that retcon. A lot of like was it Avengers? No, it wasn't the Avengers. It was Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver when they had a thing. And they're brother and sister, for God's sakes, Marvel. What the hell's wrong with you? God damn it. Yeah. Okay, so that's my thing about Captain America. Now I wanted to talk about a question that I was given on TikTok, and I was posting a lot of stuff on Captain America, and then somebody was like, "Where? How did Thanos destroy Captain America's shield?" And I was trying to nitpick on everything. Eight. So I was trying to be devil's advocate, but then I was like, no, let me just question it because I'm curious too. Like I looked at it the first time when I watched the movie, and I was like, yeah, you know what? How does he do that? How does he kill him? I mean, how does he destroy the weapon? Shield. Oh my god, the shield. How does he destroy the shield? Well, Age of Ultron came out in 2015 with the end credit scene that we see with Thanos picking up the gauntlets, saying, "Well, if I don't do it, no, I guess it's my time to do it," or something like that. So I thought maybe it's Corvus's glaive. It's so sharp. It's capable of splitting atoms. It's It can cut through everything, anything, like the Hulk or the skin of a Hyperion. It it's really it can cut through that. So I was like, maybe it could cut through Captain America's shield. But then there was an interview with the Russo brothers. It was Anthony Russo, and he said that he's an old Genghis Khan of the universe. He's been to Ichuri and to have his glove created, and maybe he did have him create the blade as well. Potentially, it's interesting that it could destroy the weapon. I mean, the shield. Why do I keep saying a weapon? Well, I mean, it kind of is a weapon, but shield. So, does this mean that it's made out of Uru metal? Because Uru metal is pretty strong. It's the metal that created the Stormbreaker and Mjolnir. 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 And and it's one of the strongest metals alongside with adamantium and vibranium, right? But it's more powerful if it's enchanted. See, that's unenchanted and enchanted means a lot. When I was watching the movie, he was spinning the blade really quickly, so I thought I was like, "Oh, is this like an enchanted blade?" But it wasn't. It was a mechanism that kind of like went into a helicopter. It went around to deflect. I believe it was Iron Man's blasters. Blasters because it was just more than just his two hands. I think his back opened up and revealed more blasters. And then I was like, maybe it's not enchanted, but it's still strong. Maybe there's vibranium alongside with Uru metal, and maybe this could be a thing with adamantium. Have we never seen an adamantium before? And metal before? Was it talked about? Did we miss it? Maybe that's it. And then I read that there was another thing called dragonite. Now, dragonite is a fused metal later in the comics. I believe it was in a future comics with Cable, if I'm correct. If I'm wrong, just let me know. But I had to point that out. So maybe it's I was convinced it was enchanted, but maybe it's not enchanted. It's still strong and it could hold up to vibranium. But the metals are always questioned. It's either Captain America's shield, it's either adamantium, Wolverine's claws and his bones, or it could be enchanted Uru, which is a Stormbreaker, and Mjolnir. Yeah, that could be it. I don't think a lot of people have seen the rest of my TikToks, so I'm going to say some fun facts because I think that's what lags in my TikToks. Like I've been seeing like the views. Like I post stuff about fighting and there's a whole bunch of people, viewing that. But if I post fun facts, nobody sees it. So this is my fun facts. George Lucas's dog was named Indiana. Marlon Brando refused to read his dialogue in Superman 1978 that he read off his lines off of a cue cards or off a actor's bag or on Kal-El's diaper. This is true. He was also a very hard actor to work with. He didn't really care about the film that much. But he gave the idea to use the Superman symbol as the family crescent. And later was used in the comics and everywhere else. Let's get out of here is the most used line in films. In Star Wars The Phantom Menace, Qui-Gon Jinn's communicator in the movie is actually a Sense XL razor for women. It was just a bit adjusted for the movie. And this one's a big Marvel fan. Oh wait, I already said this one in this episode, right? My fault. In the movie Doctor Strange, Strange's watch gets stuck on February 2nd, on Tuesday, at 5:16. This is a cool reference to Groundhog's Day, and a reference to the scene with Dormammu at the end of the movie, when the events just keep repeating itself over and over again. 200 hours, 22,000 dominoes. 4 professional domino assemblers created the domino scene in the V for Vendetta movie. I got more. On the episode, Murder? Anyone? Bueller? The high school they go to is a homage to John Hughes High School movies. Frank Oz is the man behind Yoda. in Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back, and was nominated for an Oscar for his performance with a campaign leading it. In one of our favorite shows, House, Hugh Laurie found it hard walking regularly after being done with the show. Tom Welling has played Kal-El, or Clark Kent, in the show Smallville, but he also said that he's willing to play the Dark Knight if he could. One of our favorite speeches from the Doctor is the war speech in the episode Zygon Inversion. Another one is the Heaven Sent episode, where he has a dialogue all to himself, except the last 2 minutes. He talks to like a kid. The kid talks back. Ask a question. That's it. In Elseworlds story, Bruce Wayne becomes a Green Lantern, which is, a really good story. I've read it. Wolverine has regenerated from a single drop of blood in a comic. I can't tell you what comic it was. I don't remember it. I'm looking at the picture, but I just don't remember it. Spawn has killed God and the devil. In the 1995 Marvel Comics published an issue where Punisher kills the Marvel Universe. And then in 2012, the Merc with the Mouth, Deadpool, killed the Marvel Universe. Can anybody tell me when the Joker kills the DC Universe comes out? Comic? There were 10,297 balloons in the movie Up. Did you know that Pierce Brosnan signed a contract that he could not wear a full tuxedo from 1995 to 2002 in signing to play James Bond? In our favorite shows, Psych, the episode American Duels was inspired by James Roday and Dule Hill goofing off. I really like that show, and I rewatched it like 4 times, and that's where I get my inspiration of like becoming a detective, because the way he looks at everything and like he analyzes everything and he uses his like deductive skills and everything, like the way he thinks, like I've been trained to do that a lot in my life. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I can't think of anything else to say, but I'm just gonna call it quits here. Thank you for joining with me on this episode of Geek Mythos podcast. I'm gonna leave it to Joey on this little exit. Okay, thank you. Bye.
Hey geeks, if you want to hear more from us, check us out on our Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Subscribe, like, or follow on any of the social networks mentioned, or on Spotify, iTunes, and Stitcher. We love to do what we do and hope you enjoy what we do. Just remember, Geek Mythos Podcast.
Was made into an oral, oral, oral formula. Oral. Yeah, it's oral. Yeah, I don't know why that sounds weird to me. For those who don't know, the Comic Code Authority, sorry, was when comics were put on trial in 1954 by the Senate Judiciary Committee. Wow, I cannot speak. John Hughes high school homage film, Lucky for Psych. Wait, what the hell did I write here? Spawn has killed a Dodd. An inspired story. Inspired story.